nor the civil rights scars of struggle of generations of black leaders before him. His carriage and his life experience made everyone that harbored those fears, at least most of them anyway, unafraid of revenge and retaliation under his leadership. In post-apartheid South Africa, for instance, the Nelson Mandela who was not in a mood for retaliation and revenge became preferable to the more strident freedom fighters who wanted the nation of Azania. You don't hear about Azania anymore. So my sources suggest that the power brokers in the rest of the country are more likely to be more comfortable with an Igbo candidate whose historical memory does not include him fighting in that war that official Nigeria will rather forget. Governor Jules Okalo confirmed this statement when he spoke to the board, to this same board of the World Igbo Congress on March 18, 2006. He said exactly the same thing. Moreover, the emergency of Barack Obama and Umaru Musa Yar'Adua follows a trend that is putting the responsibility of governance in the hands of young men and women between the ages of 35 and 55. By 2015, which is probably the earliest year for the election of a president who is Igbo, anyone born before 1959 would not be in this age group. The third is the gender factor. Perhaps more than any other ethnic group in Nigeria, the Igbo will be more supportive of a woman president. Anyone married to an Igbo woman already knows that there is a president in the house. So to have one in Aso Rock would not be a stretch in the consciousness of the Igbo. Chris Anyanwu, Joy Emode in the Senate, and Dora Akonyele, now the Minister of Information and Communications, are perhaps the most visible women who can conceivably be recruited. Kema Chikwe, another notable accomplished woman, is now cooling her heels in Ireland as the ambassador. There is also Joy Ogu, Nigeria's current permanent representative and ambassador to the United Nations. All five women are smart and politically astute, but in a playing field where the men are not called in overnight and encouraged to withdraw, none of these women will be able to win the party's nomination. Having said that, if you know anything about how Benazir Bhutto became Prime Minister of Pakistan, or how Ellen Johnson Sirleaf became President of Liberia, the women to watch as far as the Nigerian presidency is concerned are Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala and Obi Ezekwesili. Both women were ministers under President Obasanjo, and both now work for the World Bank. So let me get to the diaspora dimension. The first indigenous president and head of state of Nigeria, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, came from what is now known as the Nigerian diaspora to lead the independence movement at home. The great and glorious Zik was educated in the United States of America and had a political and economic philosophy that was shaped by his experiences outside Nigeria. He was Igbo in a Pan-African fashion. Let me repeat that. Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe was Igbo, but in a quintessentially Pan-African fashion. I submit to you that the next president to share the Igbo identity will also be someone from the diaspora, with a solid base at home, however. By this I mean someone who was educated and or worked in the diaspora. So essentially there will be an international dimension to an Igbo, or anyone else for that matter, becoming president of Nigeria post-Yar'Adua. That the nation that Barack Obama now leads has always had and will always have an interest in who leads the best prospect of a genuine black power on the continent. So what does this all mean? What do we do, assuming you accept the assumptions I'm making here? That takes me to the last part of the presentation, which is some brief prescriptions, or what I call strategic prescriptions that I give. Obviously, first we're going to have to find a transcendent candidate. That's really the point of this presentation. Ndibo must understand that it's going to take a transcendent candidate to actualize the election of a president of Igbo identity. Ndibo alone cannot a Nigerian president elect. Meaning Ndibo alone, even if we voted 100%, cannot elect a Nigerian president. The Nigerian people and nation will demand and should get a president who loves Nigeria and Nigerians above all other considerations. That candidate would need to have a carriage and a background that makes him comfortable in his Igbo skin, but at the same time comforting to all other Nigerians. Therefore, pragmatic Igbo politicians must be allowed to play the game in a fashion that engenders both confidence and safety for all of Nigerian citizens. The legendary and formidable American Civil Rights Movement, with many of his high priests in the African American community, gave Obama the room to operate. Even as a member of the Black Congressional Caucus, Obama kept his distance from the caucus, and the Civil Rights Movement allowed him to do that. Now, having allowed him the space within which to play this game, the civil rights community and the rest of the world now stands to gain from the election of Barack Obama, both in terms of spiritual upliftment and public policy matter-wise. So Ndi Igbo must organize and agitate. There will never be another president of Igbo identity in Nigeria if Ndi Igbo do not organize in a streamlined, disciplined fashion, with men and women who are prepared to pay the ultimate price for the ultimate prize. This is why I'm in pain at what happened in Tampa Bay last year, during the last elections. I'm also sad at what Ohanese has become in terms of the infighting. You see, in life, there are no rewards or punishments for actions or inactions. There are only consequences. In the best case scenario, we should all do the right thing for the right reasons. But in the absence of that option, I would rather do the right thing for the wrong reasons than do the wrong thing for the right reasons. The attempt to split the World Igbo Congress in Tampa Bay was the wrong thing, and we cannot be equivocal in rejecting it. As President Obama has told us, we cannot lead or govern out of anger.
Yes.
So regarding Ohanese, let me share with you a little history of the relationship between WIC and Ohanese, courtesy of that founding spirit of WIC, Kenna Agumokori. In 1994, when WIC was initiated or was being formed, Ohanese was not yet recognized by all as the apex Igbo organization at home. Aka Ikenga, among others, was also laying claims to be in the apex Igbo group. It was when the World Igbo Congress threw its weight behind Ohanese that all other Igbo groups acquiesced to that status. So the World Igbo Congress must not be seen to be genuflecting to any leadership that doesn't have democratic credentials in Ohanese. The leadership of Ohanese must be seen to have come from the Igbo masses and from their accredited delegates in the zones where the leadership positions have been zoned. And that leadership must be accountable. We in the diaspora agree that the zoning of Ohanese's chairmanship to our brethren in Anioma is long overdue and the right thing to do. While we may never completely eliminate the country club approach to leadership in Ohanese, we cannot stop trying to bring about legitimate, people-oriented leadership steeped in democratic principles. However, we must do so within the confines of our organizations, not outside of them. Further, I want to ask WIC to never again get involved in partisan politics, here in the US or in Nigeria, no matter what the temptations and enticements are. While WIC's actions must necessarily involve politics, the organization itself must float above political partisanship. The WIC tent, the tent that brings all of us together, must be that place where all parties and all leaders will feel comfortable to come and share their views and their visions for Nigeria with us. We won't do that, or they won't come, if we are seen to be partisan. I hereby again call on the World Igbo Congress to open up the organization and give Ndi Igbo one delegate, one vote. Already, the leadership appears to have, is moving in that direction when they are talking about having folks register. But the registration that we are calling people to do must come with the right to vote, and the right to vote to choose their leaders. Imagine the energy and the power you can generate and how consequential you will be if 1 million Igbo in the diaspora carry the weak ID card, even if for $1 each per year. Imagine the power and the how consequential you will be. So I want my brothers on the current executive council of WIC to jettison the fear, or any fear at all, of losing control of the politics of WIC by opening it up. Now, part of organizing, I suggest, should also include a grounded and comprehensive understanding of the Nigerian military and its officers, both serving and retired. While there are aspects of the history of Nigeria's military that are unfortunate, the fact is that no other nation's military since 1970 has been more involved in the liberation struggles of African peoples on the continent than our military. In all of those foreign missions where Nigerian soldiers distinguished themselves, there were Igbo officers and other ranks involved. So WIC's concern for veterans of the war, must also expand to include concern for all Nigerian veterans of all the liberation and peacekeeping activities in which Nigeria's military have been involved on the continent and beyond. The third thing we must do is to have alliances. As I said, Ndigbo alone cannot a Nigerian president elect. So I salute Ichie Chibuzo Onwuchekwa, under whose leadership WIC reached out to Zumunta and Ebo Yoruba for the first time. Let the Igbo not condemn or look with automatic suspicion at any of their brethren who is seen to interact openly and freely across Nigeria's ethnic and religious landscape. I would urge the World Igbo Congress to extend the outreach proactively to our Idoma, Ijo, Urobo, Efik, Ibibio, Edo, Jonkan, and other brothers and sisters in the Delta and the Middle Belt. In so doing, however, one of the agenda items from the World Igbo Congress must be the uplifting election of a president who would embody the healing of the amputated soul of the nation. The fourth and the fifth issues has to do with the perception of the Igbo, both our perception of ourselves and the perception of others about us. I submit to you that Ndi Igbo are a freedom people. There should be no rest for the talented. So we've got to manage our skills and talents and gifts better. The tremendous energy and gifts of the Igbo often come across as overbearing and threatening. We can systematically orient our people to remain self-actualizing without the kind of visible ostentation and braggadocio that engenders fear and conflict. We are a freedom people. So let none of us ever speak of the Igbo in terms of a master race, or recognize any master race for that matter. The other issue is that Ndi Igbo are an African people. I remain steadfast in believing that there are strong blood and cultural ties that tie us to all of our neighbors in the Nigerian space. Therefore, we must think of ourselves first as an African people and think of our neighbors also as African people. For when we do so, when we consider each other blood, as the American our brothers and sisters here say, when we consider each other blood, it becomes very difficult to relate to any African ethnic group as a natural enemy. More than most, the Igbo cannot afford to let the heavy weight of a painful contemporary history distract us from a loving, liberating, and creative destiny. And I'll end with this story. Some of our brothers in the north call us Inyamiri. I don't know if you know the history of that term. Well, here's the history of that term. And this comes from our northern brothers. When the Igbo traversed the continent and the Nigerian space for whatever we do, every now and then we'll get tired and pull over for rest. And whenever we approached a northern compound, the most common and frequent request we make is Biko Nyamuri. And so they began to call us Nyamiri. But I want you to notice this. The Igbo did not ask for food, mainly. They did not ask for shelter. They did not ask for weapons to protect themselves. They just asked mainly for water, which is the largest component of the human body and symbolizes life and peaceful coexistence. The great fella Nicola Pokuti told us that water, you don't get any. So no one ventures into and builds enterprises in enemy territories, as the Igbo have done in virtually every local government area in Nigeria. In asking for water and in traversing this vast landscape, the Igbo always meant to say, and still mean to say, that they saw and see no natural enemies in the Nigerian space. So to the question, my brother Chikezia, of whether we will have a president of Nigeria who is Igbo in our lifetime, I suggest that if the actualization of true nationhood means anything to all of us in the Nigerian space, yes, we will, and we will do so within the next 14 years. I say yes because we will work for it. Yes, because we will plan for it. Yes, because we will make alliances for it. And yes, because we will fund it. Because if you don't have money, you can't be president.
Yes.
No way. And yes, because we will love and respect our neighbors in the process of doing that. So as Professor Molefi Asante reminds us, transformation comes only when we collectively resolve never to be victims again.
Yes.
So brothers and sisters, I submit to you that the God of our ancestors, who enabled a son of an African man to become the President of the United States of America, will see us through to the actualization of a truly multi-ethnic, multi-faith, democratic citadel of contemporary African civilization and power. When that day comes, and I believe it will come soon, but when that day comes, even the Nigerian patriot, Idris Abdul Karim, will change his tune from Nigeria Jaga Jaga to Nigeria Don't Land Be That.